Hi guys.
Hey, Michael.
Hello.
Hey.
Let me see if there's more to merge. Okay, maybe nobody's coming because everybody's on holiday. Are you both coming to the conference or?
I'm
Yes.
not, no.
Will you be there, Michael?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I also saw you have talks, right?
So this time I'm just doing a panel.
A panel. Yeah, okay. I just saw your name somewhere in the con.
Yep.
On nullability?
That's right. Yep. So yeah, so that should be fun. Figure out how to explain where we're at with that.
Like the 100th iteration of what we
Yeah.
actually want to solve.
I
Yeah,
remember so I signed up for a talk on nullability last year, and in the space of time between proposing the talk, writing my talk, and then the conference actually happening, like the like our direction was changing the entire time.
yeah. The funny thing we implemented in Hot Chocolate the client controlled nullability,
hmm
and now for the new version that we have in August, I just removed
Yeah.
it and introduced true nullability. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's but I think the direction now that we have, like that you have two schemas, is much better.
Yeah, it does seem like we're getting closer to something. It's I mean it's still cognitively like kind of a lot. I I don't know how we can uh like make it more intuitive for for people that aren't like obsessed with GraphQL nullability, but
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way uh, is just to disable null bubbling, right? Have a
yeah.
header disable null bubbling, and then things like relay
hmm
just work, and you still have the typings that you expect to have.
Yeah. Yeah, that in itself is pretty intuitive. It's like that the hard part's mainly just dealing with GraphQL as it was, and then
Yes,
and it
exactly.
and just that's the that's the hard part.
Yeah, the introduction of semantic non-null is the complex the
Yeah.
complex aspect. And I think that's also where when I discuss with people that are not in the working groups, that is where the mental complexity is. And there's a lot around, we are considering around backwards compatibility that for a lot of folks doesn't count. Like everybody would expect an introduction of a question mark, for instance, like syntax seems very important to a lot of people. Um, I definitely know what complexities you mean.
Also, I've been catching up on what you've been doing in the composite schemas working group, and
Yeah,
it's really interesting. Also kind of trying to connect with what's been done you know in the
yeah,
past with like Apollo Federation and everything, but then uh,
yeah.
bringing.
I think what we do there, like we're gonna merge a big chunk of spec text in the
Mhm,
next couple of days,
mhm,
and the main, like one of the main aspect there is that is new are lookups, and I think lookups will also improve the client space
mhm.
because you don't I don't know how much are you involved with federation in Netflix?
A good bit.
Good bit. Okay, so the underscore entities field is what you don't need to have anymore, and that allows you basically to use any arbitrary schema and then merge them together, and make the whole process, like federation is really complex, for instance, to get right. And this complexity basically goes away with what we do in the composite schema specification with the lookups.
Yeah, I was just actually reading your lookup branch that's not merged yet, and I like the preamble that you added, kind of like these 4 goals.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to get right. Everything flows out of that.
Yeah.
Goals of, was it like explicitness and that you're composing you're designing the schemas to be composed as opposed to composing arbitrary schemas. I mean, both could be worthwhile goals, but it's important to decide up front like what you're accomplishing. I really like that. And yeah, and the entity resolver has always been a part of Federation that feels kind of magic for subgraph developers. Magic, like not in a good way. And so I think this is a good direction.
Yeah, it's hopefully is, and it will make also a lot of the, like with Apollo Federation, the main issue is that there is really no spec text, right? You don't have any, like, it's implementation detail. Everything there is implementation detail. Not that Apollo Federation in itself is bad or good, right? It's more.
Right. But yeah, the implementation is the spec, basically.
Yeah, and I think Apollo is really very well working with us on the composite schema spec. And that means we will have a very good specification with all the validation rules and stuff like that spelled out. And you guys have your own gateway, right? In Netflix, or
we
Mark
do.
did.
That's right.
Yeah. And that should validate this work at some point.
Yeah, and that's kind of my motivation for like catching up on it now, was because we'd like to be, our overall goal is to not be doing our own thing. We really want to be in tune with the greater GraphQL community here, and so we have at this point, very large existing federated graph, and so we'll need to figure out this path to evolving towards the final spec.
I hope until the end of the year we have most done. My hope for the conference is that we have the directives done, like we signed off basically on them now. There's a bit of text polish that's still needed, and then we are working at the moment on the composition rules. That's the most complex part, I would say. And then I hope we get that until the conference. I think nobody's coming, actually.
Yeah,
but it's cool to catch up.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if Lee was actually planning to come, or just his name's on the template. So template.
It's a default. Jovi, I mean, you can discuss it with us. Or we.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to continue, finish up your conversation, I don't mind.
Oh, it was mainly to wait for others, give them some time, but we are 9 minutes over. I think that's it. In the group we can still go through fragment arguments if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
And I imagine we'll probably skip the other, reviewing previous action items. Probably skip.
Yeah, let's make a formal meeting. Okay. So let me do an introduction. Let me remind you that by being here, we all agree to the GraphQL spec membership agreement and to the GraphQL Foundation Code of Conduct. The let's start with a quick round of introductions. My name is Michael Stipe, and I can do the host today.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, I'm
Yes.
Jovi de Krook.
And I'm Steven.
Awesome. Let's not review the past action items because people that were working on them are not here, and just go into fragment arguments, which I think is an awesome topic.
All right. I just made a small deck to support what I'm going to say. It is really small. It's not professional. Just a little bit of support. So I've been working for the last let's say 6 months now, fragment arguments, and now that most of the GraphQL JS work is done, I wanted to go over it. So the problem is that we encourage people to, in their front-end applications, to use fragment co-location. So you define your operation, and as you split out into components, you will accompany them with fragments that define what data they need to render correctly. But there's a missing piece there. What if your fragment needs a field with arguments? Then you have to rely on the scope it's in, like the query where it's composed into. So variables are implicit if you need variables for that argument. So that kind of currently feels like a missing primitive in how we offer documents. There are existing solutions, like Relay has a compiler that has an add arguments and add argument definition directive that they then compile, and it will work in the regular GraphQL syntax. So what is the current proposed solution? We allow fragment spreads to have arguments, and those will feed into like a fragment definitions, variable definitions. A variable definition can shadow a variable definition of the operation. So if product image here redeclares ID, then that ID will be the ID for the local scope. The variables on the operation are always global, and for the fragment are always local. So if we spread a product image in a product image, for example, it will always be the local definition. They don't inherit like they do from the global scope. That requires a few changes to how we currently do validation. We disallow unused fragment definition variables, and we have some changes to make to overlapping fields can be merged. Like, for example, two identical fragment spreads with different arguments is not allowed. Same for execution. Variables of the global scope will always be applied and can be shadowed or overwritten by fragment definitions local scope. That is kind of it that I had. I have linked the PRs in there so that that disappeared. That both need reviewing. Like the GraphQL JS one is split up into parsing, validation, execution, and the spec one is all one big piece. This works on the work that Matt did in the past.
Yeah. The funny thing is, in our Parsen.net, we have an experimental flag since years for exactly this feature. But it's cool to see progress on that. So the validation rules, did we already spec them out? Did you already spec? Can you post the links maybe to the chat? I want to read up.
This is the spec PR, and my Chrome tab just crashed, so go to GraphQL JS repo manually. And this is the GraphQL JS PR where it branches out. There's links in the description for validation, execution, and so on.
Yeah.
basically like I had two questions, but the first one might not be relevant for this group. Like GraphQL JS has an experimental fragment variables flag already in the parser. It doesn't look like there's an implementation execution. Like, do we want to backport this to GraphQL 16? Like currently I'm targeting GraphQL 17.
Yeah, as like when we wrote the .NET implementation, we took over this experimental flag for the parser, but it was just for the parser, and I think the reason was so Relay could experiment with that, and we didn't need the runtime logic for this yet. But you have implemented the full runtime now on GraphQL JS in 17?
Yeah. So hence why I added in the point to advance to RFC2, but maybe that's not in the scope for this meeting. But like everything's implemented that is spec'd out.
Yeah, okay, that's good. I will take that and experiment with that in our implementation, and then I can give a bit of feedback.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Let's see. It looks relatively simple.
Yeah, that was the intention. Just keeping it as close to what we currently do as possible.
Yeah. I was always thinking that the variable scoping could be difficult in the execution. We'll have a look at how you guys have handled that. Because that at the moment that would be a main concern for me. Like how do you track that throughout the resolve execution, right? But okay. Yeah, it's one of the key problems that Joe Savano back a couple of years said. These I think it were 3 problems. He said one of them was fragment argument or fragment isolation. When we have solved that, GraphQL would be amazing.
From a client perspective, I personally also agree. I've run into this issue a bunch of times now.
Yeah, it makes it so much nicer. It's then you have basically a function in fragments where you can pass in also arguments. Awesome. That was a short, really short working group. We don't have anything else. If you guys want to discuss anything else, we can do that.
And I just jotted a few notes in the live notes doc. Feel free to take a look at that and embellish.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it was great to have this working group anyway. It's a summer edition. Yeah, we had the same in the composite schema working group a couple of half an hour ago. It's like far less people.
August, yeah. It's funny. I just got back from vacation, so I'm just
yeah.
back into
by the way, there is a plan to have a working group at the conference, like the main working group at the conference, and let people also attend, like in person, which I think will be interesting.
Will we try to do hybrid, like with Zoom for folks like Kovi that
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that will be difficult.
Will be cool to catch up again.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, we can close.
Right.
And it was great to see you all.
Good to see you.
See you next
time.
Have
a nice rest of your day, y'all.
Yeah. Goodbye.